At the core of this infographic is the agreement's evidence map in the middle. What I'm going to discuss and summarize are the four lenses of perceived reality at the top in blue of the agreement's evidence map. So effectively taking this section and discussing a bit more about the development and history of the lenses. So to start with, in the history of looking at and studying organizational life, there have been a common theme across all the studies that have ended in four basic questions that seem to repeat themselves. And they are, how much is there? Who decides and enforces what we do have? By what criteria? And how are we going to interact on the long term, a sustainable basis? So the perspectives of the economic, the political, cultural, and social realms or lenses has been part of our study of organizational life and human life together in society pretty much since we started studying them. Now, to dive a little bit deeper, because they were so interested in each of these four lenses, they developed study, intense study. And in fact, each of these economics, political realms, cultural realms, and social realms developed schools of thought or major schools of academic focus and study. And they've all contributed tremendous amount to our understanding of how organizations get along and the ability to do what we do to get things done. But they're different, and there's an impact of them being different. So in the economics school, the focus is on really just getting the most out of what is already here through efficient processes and making scarce resources of land, labor, and capital into something we care about and can use. It's very, very clear, the economic focus. Those who took the political realm and said, you know, what really matters here in society and groups is who decides and enforces. It's really about power. So this is about the power to be the one who makes decisions on behalf of the whole. And that's the political realm has been studied and known and focuses on that. So the economic and political realms, though close, really are looking at different aspects of the human experience in all these organizational lives. Now the cultural school really focuses on what is identity? How do we identify ourselves as a group distinct and whole from others? So they care about symbols and heroes, people that demonstrate to the rest what it takes to belong in this particular group. Very different from the economics and the political school of how much is there and who decides, but really who are the people we want to emulate, the people that show us what good looks like. And from the social school, they're mostly focusing on what are the organizing principles and structures and process that hold groups, organizations, societies together, and how do they work? So when each of these disciplines deeply studies and understands these different aspects of social and societal and group life, they come up with extremely powerful, clear understandings from their perspective. But they're all focusing on quite different things, and in fact, the language they use is very different and has created a tremendous difficulty in communicating effectively across the different disciplines. So what I mean by that specifically is if we look at the four major questions, how much, who decides, by what criteria, and how are we going to interact, each of the four major schools of academic rigor look at the world very differently. And not only do they look at the world, but they look at the other three disciplines through their lens. So for example, as we look at the resource lens, so this is an economics focus. So when economists look at the world from a resource view, they see the political, cultural, and social spheres through their lens. And what they're most concerned about is how much. So when they ask, what is the power? It's who's got the greatest skills and capabilities. And they say, well, what is our identity? It's the way we choose to exchange our goods and services, dollars for dollars, as it were. And if we say, who's the one who gets to really decide and who's the power source, it's the one who's got the most, if the question is how much. So they see the world very clearly, and they see the other three lenses through their world. Well, so do the other three. For example, the political sphere, those who care most about power, when they look through their lens and see economics, it's all about who's got the power to decide who gets what. And when they look at the cultural sphere, they say the person who can decide what others can do, they're the ones who define what the identity of the group is. And when they see the social spheres, they really look at what are the classes and social authorities granted by the people who get to decide and enforce what works and what doesn't. So too, and we see that who decides, they see the other lenses through their world. When we look at the people who look at values as an identity, as the key organizing or key principle that they're looking through, or the lens they're looking through, when they see by what criteria do we decide, it's really about who's got the ability and the power to make others do things. That's a criteria issue. When it's based upon what the good, the right, and the true means, as well as what are the structures and actions that support and demonstrate what identity through actions look like. And what we care about when they say, when they look through the economics, to the economics world, they say value in terms of identity. Who is the most righteous man in our community? They're the ones we value the most, for example. And for those who look through the social lens as the primary way to see the world, they're really looking at the unwritten rules of the game in the cultural realm. And they're looking at what institutions are the ones that make the most difference in how we organize ourselves to generate and structure our society. And they most care about the organizations. It's when they see of, what does economics look like? They look in terms of institutions and organizations. So from the political sphere and the business world. They're caring about how those worlds are structured versus what do they generate, who gets to decide, and how much is there. What economics has contributed is a place, a map, a terrain in which each of the four major questions that get asked and need to be discussed, and the different schools of thought that focus on different aspects or cuts of the diamond, if you would, they all have a place to come together and see each other for what each other offers and contributes. So what economics does is shift and expand the horizon of the how much, which is a scarcity based. There's only a pie, how many pieces can I cut it up into? And economics adds to that perspective the whole realm of possibility and the orientation of abundance versus scarcity. When it comes to allocation and who decides and who enforces, as opposed to a single source, it talks about the five basic relationships as the essence of power and who decides, and how we decide, and the human experience of nature and spirit, in addition to just the power of you over me or me over you. And in terms of what we value, economics adds the human experience of noun, verb, and light, as well as in the organizational or organizing principles, instead of the game being the written or the unwritten rules of the game, what are the higher orders of collaboration as opposed to competition and cooperation as the only available kind of ways or structures to get along, to organize ourselves. It adds the aspect of collaboration and bringing forth the greatest potential into existence as well. So harmonic vibrancy is a way to expand the existing terrain of play as well as hold all of the different schools of thought so they can see each other for the values that they contribute.